My name is Sally Finkelstein-Horowitz, and I come from Poland. I was born in Zwoleń, and a small town. And when the war broke out, I was 11 years old. And on September 3rd, the bombs came to Zwoleń, even though it was not a industrialized city. And then when the bombers flew away, the place was on complete inferno, complete engulfed in fire. And I was scared because I couldn't get to my parents. And then after this, the Germans, the planes came again, and they were spraying the people with machine guns. And then we were in the woods overnight. Well, we survived that. And then when we came back home, everything was bombed out, and we just huddled together in little rooms with whoever we could. And then there was the ghetto. We were all carted to one place of the city, and it wasn't a big town, but they still brought in from different small towns people, and everybody was in the same place, sleeping in whatever they could. It was terrible. Then they were patrolling us all the time, and sometimes the Germans would knock at the doors at night and say, "Ich bin ein Arzt, I'm a doctor." And if there were girls, they said they have to inspect them. They weren't doctors. So they made a little hole in the wall so we could run out and hide. And there was also a synagogue in our town, which I cannot forget because it was, the paintings were like on the ceiling, and they were very thick walls, and the doors were very thick. And I was always in awe of that synagogue. I always felt like it's a very, very holy place. Well, this was burned down, and when we were in the ghetto, my father and my little brother went out to hide in a village. And I somehow refused to be in the ghetto. I just always wanted to get out. So one time I went to visit my father. I was very, very close to my father. And over a sudden I was sitting, and I feel like I see somebody standing there. So I picked up my head, and there was a man standing there. And he says to me, "Who are you? Who did you come to visit?" Because they knew who was supposed to be in the villages. And this was a Polish man. He was the eldest of the village. And I told him I came to visit those Jewish people. So he started to yell, "Are you Jewish?" I say, "Yes." He says, you wait right here. He's going to bring me to the Germans for coming out of the ghetto." And I ran across the street. I became friendly with one of the girls there, the Polish girls. And I told her what happened. And I told her I'm scared. So she said, "Come with me." And we went up in the attic to hide in the attic. I remember my heart was pounding so bad, and she was laughing. She says, "Don't be scared." I was scared. I was the Jew. So he kept asking everybody, "Where's that Jew? Did anybody see that Jew? Where's that Jew?" But nobody told him anything. So they went to look for me. Of course, that's when he started to scream and holler where I was. And then when he went away, I started to run and look for my father, and I was scared. My little brother was at the time about 6 years old. And so my father says, "Don't worry, I would give him a bottle of vodka so he wouldn't bother you." But meanwhile, I was scared. Now, we were in the ghetto for a while. I don't know, must have been a year or so. And it was horrible. They were always taking us to work. And they took out the rabbi, and they made him walk on, let's say, the Torah. They were pulling his beard. They were pulling his beard. And blood was coming out. And nobody helped him. And then every other day there was something else. We were sleeping, and over some we heard the church bells and trumpets and bands, whatever they did. And Jude heraus, alle Juden heraus. We all had to get out and meet in the marketplace. And there was a lot of shooting and a lot of hitting. And then they made us march 12 kilometers. And for some reason, a certain person, the people we stayed with in the ghetto times, one of their daughters got married. She was 17 or 18, and she was pregnant. And we were walking the 12 kilometers, and she was, until I had my own children, I never thought of her too much, but I can't forget her. She was very big. She must have been in the 8th or 9th month, and it was very warm. It was the second days of in September. It was a holiday, the Sukkot, the second day of the Sukkot. And she wore her father's trench coat, and her feet were very swollen. And my mother had some water. She always used to give her a little bit of water. And then we came to the train station, because Zwoleń did not have a train station at the time. And we all sat down on the ground, and we were joined by people from different smaller cities and ghettos. And there were trains in back of us. We were all sitting on the ground. There must have been 10,000 people or so. And we could smell like chlorine from the trains, but we didn't know this was going to be for us. And while we were there, one of my sisters, a few days before, was taken to a farm which was a few kilometers from my hometown. And I don't know, for some reason, one of the Germans was walking by where I was sitting, and he pointed to me, and I said, and he was looking, and I got scared, and my mother made me bend down and hide myself behind her, because we didn't know what will happen. So he passed by again, and he pointed I should get up and come raus. And my mother pushed my other sister. This was her fear always, go, you'll have to take care of her. She won't be able to wash her hair. This is the last words I remember. And he took out about 21 women, girls. And then everybody started to run. Everybody sensed something wrong. And there was a lot of shooting, a lot of beatings and the shootings. And we walked another 3 miles to the farm where my sister was there. And we worked there on a potato farm. And then when it got cold and there was no more potato picking, they picked out, we were 100 people there, men and women. So they picked out again about 35. And I was one of them, my sisters, my 2 sisters, and we were sent to Skarżysko. Skarżysko was worse than any concentration camp you can imagine. It was an ammunition factory, and the first thing what greeted us were people with yellow faces. They were all yellow. They worked with some chemicals or something, and they were exposed to, I guess, whatever it was there, and they were all terribly yellow. I was so frightened, I remember, and it was terrible. And then we were sent to a different part, and we weren't there more than about 2-3 weeks, and I got very sick with typhus. We worked in a factory, an ammunition factory. Now, if you stayed back, they shot you, so you had to go every day. They used to wake us up very early in the morning and count. There was the counting used to drive us crazy. And then when we got to the factory, we were counted, and then when we came back, we were counted, constantly the counting. And they had those beds like in four layers, and no straw and no nothing. And then people were getting sick, and I had typhus very bad. My hair came out completely, and there was no food, naturally. They gave us a piece of bread, which wasn't bread. I don't know what it was, ersatz of some kind. It was once a day, and once a day we got some soup, which was like dirty water. So when we were sleeping, they would walk us up one time. No, we were walking from work through the gates, and they hung a person in the gate. So we had to look at that person for 3 shifts, and this wasn't too far from the latrina where we had to go. We had to run every night, a few times during the night, and he was hanging there, and somebody even took off his shoes. He had some shoes on, they took off his shoes. He must have been there for about 3-4 days or more, so nobody should miss him. So we always saw him. There was no food, and the beatings, I still have a scar on my leg because we were standing and counting. All of a sudden they decided to hit us over the heads. And I figured I'm not going to get hit for nothing, and I just wanted to crawl by. So I ripped my leg with the wire, and I was bleeding, and nobody, they didn't have anything to put on my leg, and it started to spoil very bad. And so when we worked there was some Polish people coming into work from the city. So one woman said if to put sour milk on my leg, maybe it will go away, because it started to swell, and it was bad. So we managed to hid my mother's ring in my mouth when we went into the ghetto, not the ghetto, to the camps. So we gave her the ring, and she brought in a loaf of bread and a little cup of sour milk. So the three of us decided what to do, to put it on my leg or eat it. So we decided to half on my leg and half to eat it. Now, if we wouldn't be the three of us, we would never survive. None of us would have made it, because we were watching out for one another. Put us on trains to go farther towards the west. So we went to Częstochowa, another ammunition factory. Somehow the Russian armies came in too fast for them. And in 45 we were liberated. And the feeling, it's a terrible feeling, while you in camp, you don't know what tomorrow will bring. But what made me go is I thought my father was hiding in a village with my little brother, that he'll survive there. And I was very, very attached to my father. He was over 6'4", he was a beautiful person and a beautiful human being. And I thought he'll survive there. And I always thought he'll need me. I'll have to help him. He's 6, or like I am, and he needs help. And this is what made me go. In order to, it's funny, I'm thinking of it now, that how I split myself, that it wasn't me there. It just wasn't me. I was somebody else. It wasn't me. And but unfortunately, when the war ended, we were actually afraid to leave the place. It was a very funny feeling. The three of us were sitting holding hands. We were afraid to go out. Finally, when we did go out, we found something terrible, like nothing. And the natives weren't too friendly either. I went back home and to look for my father. So naturally, I came to the city. There were already a few people. And they told me that my father, my little brother, was turned out to the Germans. Well, anyway, so it wasn't too good. We had to get out of Poland. And I went back to the land of Germany. Would you believe it? I felt safe in Germany, only because there were the Americans, I suppose. We felt safer there. And of course, I came to the United States. I met my husband here. And we have 3 children. And every time, this is when I became pregnant with my children, it's just like I woke up. I got terribly frightened. And every time I thought of that woman, Rachel Goldfarb was her name, what happened to her baby? She was very close to having her baby. And her face is always in front of me. What did they do to the baby? What did they do to her? And here I am, and I did have the children, because I always said if that's what Hitler would want to, we shouldn't have any children, or we shouldn't just disappear. So my children are named after my father, my brother, my mother, my sister. They know, they always question me, because, you know, the old story where our grandparents tell me about, they were very curious, very bright children. Tell me about about our grandparents, how were they like, and what was your hometown like. I have like a panorama in front of me, constantly. I could be in a room full of people, and if there was a time when I was, let's say, in Skarżysko, I didn't talk at all, and I just couldn't believe it. I just didn't talk, and then I was constantly talking after the war. Because then I realized I was afraid if I won't talk, I'll see everything. And even now, when I vacuum or I do some tedious household thing, I always cry. I always see I could be with 100 people, and if I sit quiet, it's just like a panorama with all that stuff coming to my head. Nobody's left. And my house was always full of people, because always come, because my grandmother was with us, so everybody was coming to my house. And so I always think about those people. And I'm always afraid that I don't have any pictures of them. And then I always wonder about my little brother or my father, because the two of them were together. You always say, how did they die? What happened? It's something you don't forget. And the horror of it is, every time I see the newspaper now, and with Nazis and how it's just like it never ends. It's no end to it. And this frightens me very much. And I'm not trying to show it to the children. I want to scare them. They men, already, grown people. And I'm scared.